So I find myself thinking and stewing again, and just thinking about the yard. I parked next to the bay I was working in tonight, so it's just staring at it. It's been on my mind. And the car is great. The car is great. It's a great car. I don't think it's great for the price I paid for it, but I'm not tripping too much. I have my wife. My wife is the one that handles all of our bill payments and shit. She told me my payoff rate for the R is like 45,000. I found an auction site that my friends were using or my coworkers here were using to trade their cars in. Like one of the guys had bought a Tacoma, then his cousin bought a Cummins diesel. He wanted the Cummins diesel, so he used that auction site, and he sold his Tacoma and actually walked away in the positives. And he only had he had the truck for like less than 6 months. And then his cousin had sold his Camry like that, and also came out in the positives. So for shits and giggles, I started inputting my cars, right? Like my wife's car, we owed 25. They offered 27 and change. So we're going to be looking at that this weekend. And just for shits and giggles, too, I wanted to see how much they offer for the R. And they offered like 39,100 or some shit like that, which is right around what I thought. I told him, I was like, yeah, it's either going to be 38 at the low side, or maybe they'll offer 40 or 41, because they're selling on average here between 40 to 43. So I figured that's what they would offer. And they offered 39 and change. So I was like, well, I don't really know where I'm at yet on my payments. My wife is one that deals with that. And like the credit report is always behind. It doesn't really show where you're at currently. So, she looked at it yesterday when she made the payment. Yeah, 45,000. So I'm only a couple of payments, or I'm half a year into paying it. So 1 year into paying it is when I can either refinance or trade. And I could. The company I'm with is apparently willing to drop it to 4% interest if I refinance with them. But I figure also too, if I sell the car and I buy a car at the same price that I initially got the R for, that I'd probably be paying. I'd still wind up coming out paying a smaller payment, because if I was going to refinance the Type R, it would still have been the same life of the loan, more or less. So even though I would have brought it down several $100s on the payment, or I will potentially bring it down several $100s on the payment, I figured that would be the same. And it can't be higher than what I'm already paying now, which is a cunt hair under $1,000 a month. Oh, yeah. But see, of course, this is a good thing about me putting the grind in, paying the higher money that I've been paying, because now I'll be able to get more and more expensive cars and not have to pay as much. So again, my debate and my dilemma is, what the fuck could I potentially jump out of in favor of the R that I'm not going to go up? So the most obvious thing is what I've been talking about the most recently, which has been the Supra. But here's my thing. I think that all in all, Toyota knows they have a good car on their hands. I think the only thing that really holds them back, the biggest thing that holds them back, is the automatic transmission. I think that recent car sales with the Type R and with the hype around the new Z, that I think it goes to show there's still a very strong market for enthusiasts that will want a manual transmission, that will pay for the car if there's a manual transmission. Now, my biggest drawback from the Supra isn't the manual transmission anymore. I don't really care so much about that anymore. My biggest drawback on the Supra is the BMW interior. I think that the car itself is fucking outstanding. It looks beautiful to me. But I don't like the interior. I think it's really bland, and I don't like the BMW look to it. Not a real big Beamer fan. Not a hater of Beamer, of course, or anything like that. Just not a big fan. So, plus here's the thing, right? So, because I believe strongly that Toyota is going to drop a manual transmission version of this car within the next couple of years, or whenever they launch the next generation, I think that that's going to seriously tank the prices of the current generation. I think that there's going to be mass amounts of depreciation. Even the 2022 Supra is coming with like at 380 horsepower compared to the 330 that the first one comes out with. So I think we're going to start seeing depreciation of the first generation as early as next year, especially once we get into the new year and the taxes start coming out, people start spending money. I think the older ones are going to start dropping. But even now, the premium used 3.0s are still selling in the 50s, in the mid 50s, and I'm not willing to pay that. So it's like, well, if I wait a couple of years, which is the initial plan, I figured I'd wait a couple of years with the Type R and then get that. Maybe I could pick it up in the high 30s or low 40s. But the impatience itch is scratching the fuck out of me. And I mean, of course, this doesn't mean this is something that's guaranteed of what I'm going to do. And at the end of the day, I'm still on a quest for a car that I can get into, that I can be happy with, that I do not need to modify. I do not want to modify the car that I'm making regular payments on. And so then, of course, the idea is the Nissan Z. I love the interior. I love the rear end of the car. The front I'm not so happy with, but overall, great car. But I think there's a lot of hype for this car. I think the markup is going to be pretty fucking high. And again, this has the same major drawback for me that the Supra does. They're both two-seater cars. I need a four-door car for family trips to be able to pick up my kids. So, again, still looking at older Corvettes like C6s and C7s. C7s, even like the more expensive versions of the C7s are more affordable now. But I don't know. Thinking about paying $50,000 for a C7, despite how fast it is out the box, it doesn't excite me like it did a year ago. The C6 has kind of fucked me up. Or the C8 has kind of fucked me up. I'm just kind of waiting patiently to see if that depreciates in the next couple of years or whatnot, if it actually gets closer to what the MSRP is supposed to be. So then there's only one other thing that I was thinking of. And I was like, there's one other car that I was thinking of, and a friend of mine has one. And I, did a little after ride impression of it. And that is the Hellcat Charger. Yeah. So I'm like, well, I know that when he, my friend that got the car, he was telling me he was paying like $400 something a month for his after he refinanced it. I'm like, well, that's super doable. So I'll start, like last time I remember looking at one, it was a while back, and it was like $80,000 even for a used one. So I'm like, well, I don't know if that's in my price range. Let me just, look at it again. Because I'm talking to another friend of mine over at, Alex AA Performance. He just picked up an Audi TT RS, and it was $62,000. And I'm not sure that I want to make that kind of commitment for that car. I mean, the car looks great, but they're kind of hard to find, which is, that kind of sucks. Like he went to go to Chicago to get his and drove it back home. So I kind of want to stay in the $50,000 range. I'm like, okay, let me see. If I'm going to do 60, it has to be something exceptional. So again, looking at the M2 and looking at the Audi S3. Again, I'm not a big Beamer fan, and I don't think that the car is ugly or anything, but I think that the interior is just not imaginative, and I don't know if they come in sedans. I've only seen coupes so far while I was searching. So again, looking at the Charger, right? Now, pros for the Charger for me: 4 doors, so it still can take the family around, right? 700 horsepower. So definitely fast enough where I don't need to do anything to it. Yes, I understand the car is heavy, but also understand that I've already ridden that car and it's plenty fast enough, right? So I don't think that that's something that I would have to worry about getting used to or anything. I think that it would be fine. And then the last thing that's a big perk for me, now that I'm thinking about nowadays, is it's automatic, and it's not a perk for me personally, because it's not like I desire to have an automatic car. But the perk is that I can still have my wife drive that car. So if anything happens, if we go out and I decide I want to take my car and I get drunk that night, she can still drive the car. Or if we want to take a road trip and take my car, she can drive one trip. Well, drive it if I'm falling asleep or whatnot. So the accessibility to my wife. Plus, I would like to be able to introduce her to some power that she can actually get behind the wheel and control, because maybe that'll, wake up her desire to actually want to do something with the cars. And, she's never going to learn how to drive a manual car. She doesn't care enough about cars like that. She doesn't care at all, really. She only cares about the utility of cars. So maybe if I could get her into that and she could step on that gas pedal that first time that aggressively, maybe that'll wake something up. Or maybe it'll just terrify her and she'll double down on not caring about cars. Who knows? But so the last thing is I searched for it. I did a search for it, and I pull up Carvana's site, and they have a 2016 They have a couple of them. I know that this car is probably not going to last, but they had a 2016 with 30,000 miles on it, and they wanted 52,000. 52,000 is fine. That's right in my normal payment range already, you know. And even though it's 2016, sorry, the fucking being at 30,000 miles, I'm okay with, you know. My fucking Type R is at 29,000 miles right now. It's in 2019, so it's right on that point. Now, I do know that means potentially, like, I would have to buy extended warranties if I want the dealership to cover it, and if I do have to go into maintenance costs, it's going to be more expensive or whatnot. But I think that the Charger could potentially wind up being a car that I could get into, like, that can finally satisfy me, like, make me not be in such a rush to trade out. My problem is that as long as I'm doing a sub 400 horsepower car, that I know it's just gonna always be nagging at me to trade out to get something more, you know, which is why I'm always saying that I need to finish the S2000 to see how that goes, and maybe that'll squash my itch, even if I only extend my desire to trade out for another year, because I think in another year that my options will open up even more. Like, I'll have more to choose from if I just wait a little longer. So I'm currently waiting for my block to return from CSS. It was due back Wednesday, and then Tuesday. So Wednesday being today, and then Tuesday it told me that it wasn't going to be Wednesday. It was going to be, or Wednesday happened. Oh, shit, I'm sorry. It was Tuesday it was supposed to come, or Wednesday was supposed to come, and on Tuesday it told me it was going to be Thursday, and now it's telling me tomorrow. So, or it's pushing out the day again. So I don't know what the fuck's going on with UPS or where the delivery's at. But anyway, hopefully, as long as it gets here before the weekend comes, I'm fine, because the weekend is when I'm actually going to start working on it. So I'm going to get the engine reassembled, but next week is already Thanksgiving week, right? So I know that my guy's not going to be wanting to put that car back together then. He's not going to do that. And so I would have to squeeze in, hopefully, the first half of December, and that's if even he has a spot for me. So realistically speaking, the engine probably won't be back in the car until January at the earliest, you know? And then I have until June before I'm like a year into the Type R, and at that point, at that 1 year anniversary, I will have paid the car down enough where I will be either at what I've been offered for it or even below it. So I might walk away with some money in my pocket. And at the same time, too, another reason why I'm stressing, like, maybe trading out the R is because the mileage is starting to rack up, too. And although from what it seems like, I'm not putting a crazy ton of mileage on the car. Generally speaking, I'm only driving to and from work. I've only taken it on one road trip so far, and it's only to Orlando, which is a couple hundred miles. So I think even if I keep it another year, it'll be like at this time next year, if I were to keep the car, it'll probably be like 38,000 miles, if even that. So I don't think the mileage is going to go up too high, but these are all things I'm thinking about considering. My biggest issue is that, like, I'm not really good at using cars to promote. So I'm even worried I'm putting all this effort into the S2000, and I might not even be able to use that too much. Although I'm saying I'm gonna figure it out. I'm just not good at shooting car content. I'm good at talking. I think I'm good at talking. This is why, and at least I enjoy it. This is why I do this. The YouTube thing. And that's why you don't see me in car too much. I have a Type R, and I believe that there's not a lot of good Type R footage on YouTube, which is why I know that some of you guys that follow me that have FK8s, and some of you guys are really knowledgeable about your FK8s. Like, if you guys made Type R channels, or if you made a channel on YouTube and you centered it around your FK8, I think that you would get some viewership. I would watch it. Because I really don't see anybody that's making any real good content. There's like one guy that I've seen, and I don't even remember the name of the channel to shout it out, but the guy comes off as a little bit corny to me. So, like, it's not really fun to watch. But I'll say at least he's actually out there doing things with it. Like, he's out drag racing and shit. And I'm not gonna do that. I don't think that if I do a couple of races on the streets with the S2000, might just be a couple, just to get some footage on it. I would like to raise the profile of the S2000 because that would be advertisement for me, which is of course why I got the S2000 to begin with. But I don't know. We'll see how things go in the next 6 months. Hopefully when the tax season come again, people will start ordering engines again, because like it's been dry as fuck. I think I've walked away with $2,000 or $2,500 maybe in the past 3 months, or maybe going on 4 months now since I got sick. And I don't know for sure if that's gonna happen. Who knows? Maybe the past 2 years was just a fluke and my earnings is gonna tank. So we'll see what happens, but I guess it really, at the end of the day, it depends on how much money I have in my pocket. With the S2000, how much that's scratching my speed itch. I don't know. We're gonna see what happens, but I just know that come summertime next year, a lot of shit is gonna be open and available, and I'll have to assess what I'm gonna do. If I could fucking get myself to shoot car content and do bolt-ons and stuff with the FK8, then I would imagine I could use the Type R to boost some, boost the channel a little bit, But I don't know, man. I'm not big on that. I have the car, and I'm not really putting it to use for YouTube, and I'm not really modifying it. So unless I start doing bolt-ons and tuning and all that shit, there's not even really much I can do. And it's VHP engines at the end of the day. It's an engine channel, and I'm not pulling that fucking K20C out to do a rebuild. That's just not gonna happen. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. This went a little longer than I expected. I'm just kind of rambling here, just ruminating. All right, guys. Social media links in the description down below. If you have any questions you want to ask me, I don't care if it's related to this topic or not. Ask it in the comments. Don't DM me. You won't get an answer. DMs are for business, guys. And peace. Thanks for watching.